We're ready, yep. Are we still, we have everybody here? Yeah, Joe just had it. Okay.
I will call this work session of the Charles City Community School District to order at 5:30 p.m. Start with student achievement and district mid-year goals.
Joe, you're first.
Good evening. Yeah, we're going to update our goals for this year that we talked about in the fall. So we are looking for growth in ELA and math. Those are our first two goals. And then our goal 3 was for student success. We don't do the official conditions for learning survey, but we do our own questionnaire for students. And so dealing with big emotions with peers, and we were looking for that to shrink by half from fall to the spring. So for goal number 1, for literacy, we are fully implementing our resources, our bookworms curriculum right now. We are really emphasizing foundational skills. So the letter sound, the word segmenting, blending. And then we are having intervention groups at both grade levels. And then we have really used a lot of our resources. So we have a title paraeducator, and we have another paraeducator who is, they're pulling groups all the time to help kids with letter sounds and just working on a lot of different things. And then I think the next slide is what we have planned. One of the things that we noticed last year and we're noticing again is that our students are really, really good at segmenting, letter sounds, blending. But when we put a large passage in front of them, which they're going to be asked to do in first grade, it kind of overwhelms them. So they're really, really good in isolation, but getting more opportunities to improve their fluency. And then continuing to improve those intervention groups, making those super flexible, moving kids around when they have reached the end of that group. And then we are, thanks to the board, for purchasing the new ELA curriculum for the fall. We're really, really excited about that, and just planning for that and kind of what that change will mean for our teaching, for our inclusion of special education students. That a lot of different pieces will come into play there. So the next slide, I believe, is our kindergarten performance. Kindergarten saw a really, really large jump from fall to winter. So 59% proficient to 79. That's that purple column there. And so really, really great growth because we have hit those foundational skills. And if you go to the next slide, you can see which tests they take. So in the fall, those are the 4 that they take: concepts of print, the onset sounds, beginning sounds, letter names and letter sounds. We kind of ramp it up a little bit in the winter with that word segmenting and nonsense words. But again, that's almost all the things that we do in kindergarten. They really have had a ton of practice at those things. And so they're really, really good at decoding words. Spring for kindergarten will add sight words. So just being able to, some of those words that are not easily decoded, they're going to have to learn those and remember those. And so that will be a little bit trickier for them. First grade, or excuse me, first grade is right after that. And first grade, we saw flat. We didn't have an increase or decrease, almost identical. And again, it comes down to that, the fluency piece. If you go to the next slide, the CBM test is the large passage that they get, and that is introduced in the winter. That's it's very overwhelming for kids the first time they see it because they're used to seeing 2, 3, 4 sentences on a page. This is a very long passage. And so as we get further into the year, we're going to see more and more passages that look like that. And you can see that the tests don't change in the spring.
Joe, can I piggyback for a second?
Yeah, please.
So, the CBMR is that first chance where they get a chance to read with fluency. Right. So they have to have kind of intonation, and then the speed that they read with is an early indicator of their reading, proficiency. So that's the first time they have to read in that manner. Right?
So like during that CBM test, they're physically reading out loud.
Correct. Yep, they have 1 minute to read as many words as they can.
Yep. Somebody's like listening to them like auditory.
Yep.
versus the other ones, they're just using their eyes to do the test.
All of these are auditory, because the teacher is, right there with them as they test. So, when they get to, second, third, fourth, on up, there's another test called A reading that they do on their own. That's more of a comprehension test, but these are all out loud and are recorded by the teacher. Yeah. The overall building data looks like this. This will have math on it too, so sneak preview. But because of kindergarten's big jump, we have gone up 10%. Our goal was 11, so we're doing well. But we want to obviously have a literacy percentage much higher than 65. So our goal is to keep growing, especially first grade. We want our kids to be fluent readers by the time they leave us. That's our goal, so that when they get to Lincoln, they're ready to take off. Math wise, again, we are really using our bridges. This is year 3, I believe, of bridges. And really, I think teachers are getting comfortable with that. Kindergarten has started to implement math intervention times. It hasn't really worked in the first grade schedule yet, but really being able to support some kids that are getting a lot of practice with number identification, number writing, number sequencing, different things like that. Those groups are working on. And then our PLC processes, again, because we have that from our board that Wednesday afternoon, it really helps us be stronger in our PLCs and be able to help support our students. And then if we keep going, we just had professional development on Monday of last week with Bridges to help help our teachers identify kids who need further intervention. I want to keep looking at pacing in our lesson instruction. So there's a concept in curriculum called spiraling. And so we want to kind of keep going through the curriculum relatively quickly because it's going to keep coming back. They're going to keep seeing similar things over and over again. So we're not necessarily going to mastery every single day. We're teaching it and then we're going to come back to it maybe in a week or so. And then building thinking classrooms, I spoke about that last month, but the vertical surfaces, getting kids to have big meatier tasks to work on, kind of growing that from 1 or 2 classrooms to more classrooms in our building. And then, so this is the opposite. So kindergarten, we saw a dip in our scores from fall to winter. I think that was something that they were seeing in their data as they collect it as we go through the year. And that's why they implemented those intervention times. And then first grade, we saw a small increase on the next slide there from 67 to 70. And then if you go down one more overall, we went from 71 to 69. And so compared to last year, we are still up. So we were at 66% last year, we're at 69 this year. So even though we dipped a little bit from fall to winter, we're still ahead of where we were last year. And then our last question,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Can you go back one second? So, is that class to class or year to year?
So that is year to year.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And then our last goal is around student success, and we have a student safety survey that we created through our PBIS team. It really didn't change a whole lot from last year. And then we have given it twice so far. We give it at the same time. We do these fast tests, and then we'll give it once more in May. And then we have our PBIS team, but then we also have our tier 2 and tier 3 teams. We meet alternating weeks, and we support students that need extra support. And then what we have planned, we're going to be collecting our last bit of data in May. We are going to analyze data that we get from these surveys. And then what I did last week is I followed up with individual students, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute, who indicated they struggled with these tools. So this graph doesn't look awesome because we had 7.5% that said that they could not handle big feelings in the fall, and that went up to 17% in the winter. So a couple of reasons as I talked with my teachers, one of the reasons was when they came to us in September, they didn't really even know how to define a big feeling. And so now they're more aware of what those are. They've also had an opportunity to be around a lot of their peers, and stuff happens in schools. And so a lot of the kids that I talk to it was like, well, yeah, this one time that happened. And so, so that's kind of where the data shrunk. But if you go down one more, I went and interviewed every kid who said no, in the winter test. It ended up being about 25 kids. When I talked with them, 75% of the kids had the tools. They could tell me exactly what they do. They take deep breaths, they walk away, they talk to an adult, they talk to a parent. All of those were absolutely valid things, and they just came right out with that. There were other kids, one said they didn't have any issues. Couple misunderstood the question. And then some of them had some tools, but didn't always work. And then there was just one student who said, I don't have any tools. I don't know how to solve these problems. And so I'm encouraged by this data because I think kids struggle to understand the question more so than they actually can't solve problems when they have them. And one of the feedback that I received was that the word emotions is just used more in our curriculum than big feelings. And so that question is going to change to, I can use a calm down strategy when I have a big emotion with friends.
Can you go back one slide?
Yeah.
So this subset, is this a subset of students per grade, per class, everybody in?
Everybody,
So every kid in the school answered this question?
everybody K1. Yes, preschool does.
Yeah, we did
Yes.
in your book.
Yep.
Thank you.
Are you able to share what the percentage was? Was it more kindergarten students or first grade students?
It was about 50-50 actually. Yeah. Thinking about who I interviewed, it was about 50-50
For the note, right?
for the no's. Yeah.
So what we're hearing you say is there was only one kid who really didn't know how to
Right.
handle big feelings.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's great. Yeah.
We got one person in my family, only 6 people, so that's great.
No, it's great. Like, as I talk to them, you know, they'd say, yeah, I do this, and I say, does it work? Yeah, great. Sounds like you have tools. So, I am very encouraged by that. And, you know, when they listed the tools that they have, and then I talk to teachers, they say, yeah, they should be able to say this, like, those are the exact words they used. So, so they're learning it.
So can I ask one other
Yeah,
question?
please.
So, not to discount what you've said, but it's not a script that they've heard the teacher say or they've read, so now they just repeat that because they know what you're asking. They actually
No.
can articulate what they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it versus, well, I take this step, this step, this step, and now my feelings are better.
No, it's more like we've presented them with an array of options and they choose what works best for them. So I have a lot of kids that, like, we ask them to take a deep breath to calm down. They're like, that doesn't work for me. And so they do something different.
Excellent, thank you.
You bet. Any other questions?
Do you have that same kind of data from a year ago?
I do. We focused on a different question last year, so it was different data. Last year, we really focused on student safety and we did shrink that quite a lot.
Just know with the kids in my house, they just have bigger feelings in the winter months.
Yeah.
'Cause nobody likes being trapped inside. is my
The type of inside, for sure, yeah. So it is fresh in their mind.
coronation of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, absolutely.
How about, you mentioned the Wednesday things we had. Teacher mentioned they didn't feel it was as beneficial for them, but that was a different grade.
Okay.
Is it still something that need to keep in place, or what are your thoughts?
I think it's hugely beneficial. And I think it's beneficial for our teachers. It's especially beneficial for me just because when we had PLCs during specials, almost always I would get pulled away. And so I wasn't able to be in the PLCs with the teachers. And so it's very helpful for me because there's no kids in the building. There's nothing distracting us. Almost every group goes well beyond the hour that we provide. They go up to their contract time. So I think it's incredibly valuable.
I think every time we do this, I ask the same question too.
Yeah.
Any needs, any wants, any wishes that can make your life easier that we can help with?
No, no, I think right now we're good. Just, yeah, looking for one more para, but our heat, Brand, I just want to give a shout out to Brandon, our HVAC person, because he helps us so much. We had another heating issue. He was right there today to help us. So, no, I think we're good.
I know last time you had mentioned that you just felt your time was so much committed to behaviors. Has
Yeah.
that lightened up, or you still felt like your time was?
It's not dominated as much. We do have the behavior interventionist, and she is able, we're getting to the point where she's able to get freed up and go help be more proactive. So anytime, like we just had a new student move in last week and we need a para for, so everybody's just stretched a little thinner. But that's life, that's how it is, so, yeah. But once we're fully staffed, she's able to get out and she's fantastic and really helps kind of put out a lot of fires before they even begin. Okay, all right, thank you.
Teacher program.
Yes, she is.
Is it a teacher program?
Yeah, you become a teacher. Hopefully. Be wise.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Moen, here to talk about Lincoln Elementary and an update on our building goals. We have 3 different building goals that we've been focusing on this year. Literacy, math. Our goal is a 10% increase in growth of proficiency or meeting benchmark for both literacy and math. And then our culture climate goal is a 25% decrease in overall behavior referrals made. So focusing on literacy, our current reality is you can see that we're pretty stagnant from fall into winter. We have not made any progress towards our goal. So I'll go through what we've been working on and have been doing since the start of the year. We've got daily time embedded for all students to get what they need. So enrichment or intervention. We're utilizing individualized learning plans for students who are not meeting our benchmarks. We're utilizing Imagine Learning Literacy, which is a program to help those students. We're hitting phonics with HD Word. Our PLCs are utilizing data to adjust their instruction in real time. And then also we've got established checkpoints to reflect on our progress towards our goals. We aren't happy with being stagnant in the growth towards our goals, so we're taking additional steps. We actually, within our PLCs, have engaged in literacy-focused data protocols that are helping, we hope, to improve our intervention practices for our identified students who have skill gaps. So we're increasing fluency practices within our grade levels, working on differentiated reading instruction, and utilizing additional technology to meet our student needs. So some examples is IXL group jams, and then some of our special ed teachers are going through EPS reading assistant training. Both of those things provide real-time feedback to our students. So they're getting what they need in that real time. And then we're also really looking forward to the new curriculum in the fall. So working on planning professional learning, even thinking about things about what does our schedule need to look like next year in order to implement that curriculum with fidelity. And our grade level teams are actually starting to pilot units now as teams. They've been utilizing some of their their PLC time to plan that out as a team. So they're feeling comfortable when we go into next year. For mathematics, we're really excited about these results. We have an 8.3% increase. And so we're really close to meeting our goal right now in 10% increase in proficiency from fall to spring. So what we've been doing is what we will continue to do in that area. Yep. But I first want to say, I want to celebrate this because I think it's a really, really big deal. So we're almost to our building goal, but also it's really important that student growth. And when students make something called aggressive growth, so every test period, we have expected growth, and it depends on the grade level and if we're testing fall to winter or winter to spring, but we expect students to grow by a certain number of points. And you can see in our building, 2nd grade, 3rd and 4th grade, right around 60% of our students had aggressive growth. So they were growing more than what was expected in mathematics for that time period. And I want to celebrate that because that's how we're going to close the gap with our students to get them up to a proficient level. So again, what we've been doing with our students and will continue to do is that daily time embedded within the school day to get them what they need. Continuing to implement our newly adopted curriculum, so Bridges with Fidelity, PLCs utilizing data to adjust their instruction, using data provided within Bridges screeners and post assessments, and then our checkpoints to reflect on where we're at. And then finally, our last goal was the culture and climate goal. And our goal was to have a 25% decrease in overall referrals made. So last year, approximately 1,900 referrals. And we will reach our goal if we have about 1,450 or less. So as of January 27th, when I pulled the data, we had 747 referrals. So that was just past halfway the school year. So we are on track of meeting that goal at this point in time. The things that we did in order to be successful in this area is we really thought about the structure of our school day. We also identified and implemented consistent and proactive responsive strategies to our students. We revised our behavior protocols. We have signage throughout our building of above the line, below the line behavior. We teach and reteach expectations, especially after breaks. We are utilizing a curriculum called Purposeful People, and doing that with consistency. We're really working on our tier 2 processes in our building on the behavior side of things to help support teachers, students in the classroom, and then just recognizing positive contributions. Questions to you guys?
Can you go back to the celebrate
Yeah.
slide real quick?
Down,
Missed it.
down,
No, sorry.
Right there.
right there.
We're almost there. We're there. Yeah. What was the, I guess, tool or success that you used to reach this goal? Like, why was this one so much more on track than the other?
I think what has really helped, I asked our teachers this because I was curious about it. Like, what do you think made us really successful in the school so far? It is the fact that we have a common curriculum across all 3 grade levels. It is the fact that they were provided with a significant amount of professional learning and development in the first year of implementation. And our building is super committed to implementing that with fidelity. That is still talk that we have right now. And then the intentional math intervention time was the other thing. So there had not been intentional intervention time where we would be giving enrichment for the students who need it, or identifying the skills that certain students are lagging in and helping fill in those skill gaps. So that's now built into our schedule on a daily basis for them. So that's something I said, we're really looking forward to CKLA for our literacy curriculum.
And that was supposed to arrive in January, but the company is redid or something, and they're redoing.
They revamped their next edition,
Thank you.
which gave us more options on what units we could teach, and actually was a little bit cheaper.
Can you explain referrals to me?
Yeah.
When you're talking about that.
So that's a good question. Behavior referrals. So we have something in our building called minors, majors. Minors, so when I referenced above the line behavior, below the line, and then we have something called bottom line, which is like suspendable offenses, those types of things. So minors are the below the line behaviors. So the types of behaviors we don't want to see in our building, but sometimes do happen: name calling, pushing. Those are some examples of that. So teachers would write up a minor. Teachers typically handle those within the classroom. There's reteaching. There's a bunch of different strategies that can be used there. And then there's majors. And so that's when I am typically involved because of the level of physical aggression that's seen, those types of things.
Yeah. 1,900 last year,
We had a significant amount last year.
10 a day. You roughly 100.
It was, I did the math and I think we had approximately 3 majors a day last year. So when there was myself as the lead teacher, the principal, and then 2 other people helping with behavior, it was absolutely necessary. But I'm really proud of the fact that we really looked at even structural things. Like, we had a whole entire grade level out on the playground at one time. It was clear from that data last year that that was not necessarily successful, because we were noticing our recesses were 30 minutes long and a lot of our referrals were coming in that last 10 minutes. We got super busy, you know, and so it's just thinking through some of that information and how can we change and shift. And that's what we did this year, is we focused a lot on that and seeing positive results. So.
You guys are saying to try and teach kids and put up with that.
No.
The Wednesdays,
Yeah.
beneficial for you guys as well.
Absolutely. I'll be honest with you, especially at the elementary level. We're looking at, our teachers are trying to run PLC for literacy, trying to run PLC for math. I would love 2 hours on Wednesdays, to be honest with you, an hour for each. Our teachers are still giving up some of their prep time, which is during their specials time, and they're still meeting as grade level teams to work on things.
And when we say PLC, we're talking about that way teachers come together to help look at data and
Yes.
talk about kids.
Same questions they all get. Anything we can do that can be helpful that we need to look into or.
You know what I would love is just whenever you guys see that we have an opening, if you're pushing out, sharing with well-qualified people. It is hard right now to get some really qualified applicants. We've had a school counselor position open since last year and still hoping, we're working on it. Sandy, myself, like as a former school counselor, we're reaching out to our networks and stuff, but I would even say with para educators, whenever you guys can help us out and know of anybody who's well qualified and send them our way, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, guys. Right, 3 goal areas that I had. Number 1 was all about academic progress. The reason why we work is to help kids grow. The second one was about maintaining a good budget at the middle school. We were given quite a bit less money this year, so I really needed to be cognizant and help our staff be cognizant about the money that we were spending and how we were spending it, so be financially responsible. And then the third one was to just we want to retain and hold on to as many teachers as possible and make it the best work environment as possible. So that was all about like being present with teachers and helping problem solve and getting in classrooms and giving lots and lots of feedback. So goal 1 was all about like, we think we make the best progress when we have a guaranteed viable curriculum and we have time to collaborate on it in PLCs. And we have some really strong goals and strong learning around what we're doing in our PLCs. So all of our PLCs are engaged in the formative assessment work. The middle school is in, I think, year 4 of this.
Can you explain just a little bit about formative assessment?
Yeah, formative assessment process is taking everything from the state standards and breaking them all the way down to giving really great feedback to kids. And in between there is taking the big standard and breaking it down into what's most important, success criteria and learning targets, and under each one of those standards, making sure that the what we're teaching is rock solid. We could be the best teachers in the world and just have it slightly off and not teaching the standard. And our kids are learning really awesome things, but it's not what the state is looking for, so we could be off. So just breaking down those state standards and making sure that we're hitting the necessary things that we have to in the way that is explicit to the kids. And then writing really great formative assessments. And formative is different than summative. Summative is like at the end where you're giving a grade on a test, but formative is real quick, 2 or 3 questions, teachers gauging the students' learning and then shifting their teaching in order to meet the kids where they are. Instead of teach, assess, throw the grades in the grade book. It's teach, assess, teach, assess, and then always adjusting. So and it's broken down. There's lots and lots of layers of this. We are really solid in standards at the middle school. We are really solid in learning goals and success criteria. We are in the, I'd say, basic understanding and phase of creating formative assessments and giving really good feedback to kids. To me, that's where a lot of the money is going to be made in the future. So teachers creating a form of assessments and giving feedback often. I put weekly on there, and then teachers are responding to student performance. So if you think about if anybody's ever been in athletics, coaches do this naturally all the time. They wouldn't let a kid do a drill over and over and over again wrong. They would stop them, they would correct them, they would reposition or do whatever, and then they would continue. So we want our teachers to be doing that. So what we've done. So all PLCs are engaged in the formative assessment work, the standards, learning targets, and success criteria. I gave a really quick self-reflection. That's part of the formative assessment process is self-reflection. And on a 4-point scale, teachers gave themselves a 3.44 out of 4 on understanding power standards, which is exactly what I'm seeing when I'm doing walkthroughs every week. How often are learning goals and success criteria posted? 3.2 out of 4, which is most of the time. And what I see is almost all teachers have them posted. Sometimes they're not up to date, like they maybe forgot to update it. That's all about visible learning with our kids too, because if they know to look there about what the success criteria and learning targets are for the day, it helps make what the teachers are talking about like more relevant. At the end, we're going to be testing over this and this. And then how often are your learning goals and success criteria posted and referred to? 2.7. So now we're starting to see the gap. And also, how often do you give feedback to your students on learning goals and success criteria is a 2.6. So which is right on track with where we're heading with the formative assessment process. So I think we're exactly where we need to be and when it comes to that. And our teachers are they understand where they are. And if we had 4s across the line and I'm walking in and I'm not seeing it, I'm not hearing it the way they say they are, and then we would have a perception gap. But we don't. So the teachers are perceiving about right where we think that they want to. Next slide. What all of this boils down to is how students are going to be assessed. In the end, how they're going to be assessed on the state assessment. And at the middle school, we use MAP assessments. We don't have FAST data like they do at the elementary. We have MAP data. And we give that in the fall, and we give that in the winter, and then we give the big Super Bowl test, the ISAST in the spring. So all of these are leading up to that. I know it's a lot of data. I guess the big takeaway on this is this one's math, and what you're seeing is like achievement from the fall in math to the winter in math. So in 5th grade, we had our students grew more than 47% of all of the other students across the nation that are taking this test. So, and then you can break it down into each how they're scoring. 26% of our 5th graders grew 80% more than 80% of any other student. So that makes sense. So 26% of our students grew at a rate of 80%, more than 80% of other students across the nation. So we went from student achievement. So that's like considered at benchmark or proficient on the maps. What we know is like students, the achievement level on maps is it's a little bit harder to get proficient on maps than it is on ISAT. So that's why you're getting numbers like in the 40th percentile for maps, but you'll get them in the 60s, almost in 60s and 70s on ISAT. So we know that, but what we're looking for is growth. And we look for like how they achieved in the fall compared to how they achieved in the winter. So we've got some winners and we've got some not so great stuff here. So in math, our 5th and our 8th grade both went up. Our 5th grade went up significantly from 41 to 46%. And that typically hasn't been the case. In 5th grade, we often see an achievement dip. Sometimes it's like attributed to going to a new building or just 5th graders. Just overall, they tend not to perform as well for some reason. It's been our most, the class that has tend to have struggled the most in the time that I've been here. So, but I also think implementation of Bridges curriculum and having this be what year 3, year 2. So those kids got this in 4th grade, and it's the same curriculum in 5th grade. So now we're not switching over new schools and new curriculum. So that's why I think we saw a pretty good gap, a pretty good bump here from 41 to 46. Our 6th graders went down from 48 to 38%. And those are percentage of students who scored at benchmark. And then you can see here that overall our growth there was not as great. This is the year where we switched curriculum. So I'm wondering if that 5th grade is going to be my new 6th grade. I'm just projecting here a little bit. In 7th grade, we went down. This is I've been tracking this 7th grade for a while. They've got like 31% of students with special needs. So it's a very, very heavy needs class. So I'm looking at this and I want to see growth, but I also know what's realistic. And then my 8th grade, went from 58 to 61. And this is such a huge shining star here. Our 8th graders grew on average better than 70% of all other students. So I think if we look at in that regard, like students, that particular group of students has just continued to improve and perform very, very well. So that's math. Our reading scores, and they do a reading and a writing, or reading and the language arts. Our 5th grade held steady, our 6th grade went down, 7th grade went down, and our 8th grade kind of held steady, went down just a little bit. So we know by looking after they looked at this data, I had a number of teachers ask me, what do I think? And I think in 5th and 6th grade, we combined our reading and our writing, and the curriculum that they're using is a little more, I guess, language arts heavy. So they're making some shifts over into some reading comprehension strategies and some things like that to help. And then you want to go down with the next?
Yep.
Our language arts, these scores are, you can see they're all yellow, which means that they're in the 41 to 60th percentile, which I think is pretty good. Where we held steady or went down just a little bit, held steady, went down a little bit, and then went down just a little bit on this one. I'm not overly concerned with this dip in data. I think that the writing scores are pretty good, and I think it's a pretty good indicator that we're going to be okay on the MAPS test. Next one, our science scores. We scored really, really well in science. And I wish I had a really good reason why. I don't, because we don't have a guaranteed viable, like, solid curriculum in science right now. Our teachers are doing an amazing job, and they're really, really veteran teachers who have really dove into the standards work that we've done. And I think that's paying off. But overall, our students are just performing really, really well on this particular test in science. Some key takeaways. We had slight increases in math for 5th and 8th graders. We had great gains in science. We held steady in language arts. We need to focus on reading skills in 6th and 7th grade. How this equates to our everyday operations. 82% of all classes in 8th grade, quarter 1 and quarter 2, passed. So what that means is, like, there was 400 in some classes that are grades that were possible in all of 8th grade, and students passed 88% of them. And then 82% of all the past classes in 7th grade for quarter 1 and quarter 2. I think there's some really good data also that suggests that the work that we're doing with our attendance policies and our attendance practices are working as well. It was a huge shock to me to know that we had 31% of our students in the middle school were considered chronically absent last year. And at the end of quarter 1 and quarter 2, we ran that data again, and we were at 16.2%, which is incredible. So I'm super happy about that. What I did notice, and we spent some time diving into this as a PLC and a leadership team, 31% of our students who are identified in special ed are chronically absent. So almost double what our normal absentee rate is our special education kids. So we got to figure out ways to get those kids who need to be here the most here more. And that's one of the reasons why we're a targeted school, is because we're identified with the lack of growth for our students and with special needs. So we got to get them here. So that's my job, and the job of our team of people that we actually have a list of students that we printed off, and every time they're here, we're like, hey, I'm really glad you're here. Let's go for 5 days in a row. Hey, if you go 10 days in a row, you can have lunch with me. And just kind of building them up and trying to find ways to just let them know, hey, I notice when you're here. We started to do that I notice statements with students at the beginning of, or about the middle of first quarter. And I had a list of about 25 students that pulled into the class, pulled into my office and said, hey, I noticed that you're missing a lot of school. Is everything okay? From that, 3 students gave me like really good, like things that I needed to do because they were getting targeted by other students and we squashed that. A couple other students was like, oh, I missed that many days. I'm like, yeah. And then I had one student in particular that was on my list of like, I would say at risk. She had missed like 7.5 days in the first quarter and missed 0 days all the next, she hasn't missed a day since. But I think just like people recognizing and letting them know that, hey, I noticed when you're gone, that goes a long way.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
about that? Can you go back one slide?
Yep.
So, in this takeaways, so talking about those students particularly, so each student obviously is different. Is there something that we as an organization could do to help? Like, is it a transportation issue? Is it a food issue? Is it a reminder to call mom to wake her up issue? I mean,
All of the above.
okay.
I think that transportation is something that we really need to consider. I don't know about going back to all of the bus routes that we had internally, but I know at the beginning of the year, it was a hurdle that some of our students, and especially some of our students who they struggle financially, the most are the ones that have a hard time getting here to school, are the ones that now are kind of paying the price when it comes to that. So I think that's one thing that we could look at that might be able to help. But I think that our attendance policies and our letters and the reminders, it's all working. It's all working. I get a number of parents who are like, my kid's gone, I know they missed 9 days. I know I'm gonna get a letter, and I'm like, just know that when they miss this many, that they're considered chronically absent, and then we have to report that. And they're like, oh, I don't want that to happen. So they want to work with us too. But I think like just reminders of how many days we missed is super important. It's a great question.
And I was gonna say to that point too, like, I'm guessing you as administrators, like, know who those kids are.
Yeah.
And can see if there's like a family component of like, are they missing in multiple buildings?
And that almost always is that the case. Like when we're having attendance hearings, it's oftentimes we're scheduling for both kids.
There might be a way for us to filter on students on the bus and do a comparison. Kids that ride the bus and their attendance versus students that don't. I would guess it's, since our attendance has improved, I don't know that the busing,
Well, it might be,
certain cases maybe.
it might just be a personal conversation with those specific families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause then
Absolutely.
that 16%, are some of those then the special ed students that you were referring to? Like that 16% includes those. special ed
Yeah,
students as
yeah,
well.
yeah, the 16% was all students, right? But then when I filter down and I look at just the students who are identified, 33% of all the students who are identified are considered chronically absent. That's
So I
a
guess
lot.
what percentage of that 16% is a special ed student?
What are we at? Do you know where we're at total?
Percent is bad,
Yeah,
it's about 16, 17.
Or no, like, so he said 60% of students were chronically absent, so what percentage of that were special ed students?
33%.
yeah. I looked at all of the students who were chronically absent. And then I switched over and I said, okay, here's a list of all of my students who are identified, special ed kids. And I highlighted all of those that were chronically absent, and it went from 16 to 32.
Percentage.
32%.
So of the 16%, which is now 100%, 33% of them.
Yeah, 33 of that 100, you're right, yep. Pulling out of that particular pool of those kids, 30.
I'd be like 4 kids, no, 6%, whatever.
No, it's not
What was
16.
your question?
So my next question is, I'm not advocating that we call every parent whose kids are sick, but what I'm saying is, if those 16% are 33 kids or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever the number is.
Mhm.
Those are the kids that need the bus rides the most or the extra calls or whatever. So by saying if we want to get to 100% attendance, which is a really great lofty goal, maybe we need to figure out a way to solve that 10%.
Yeah, and I think targeting that particular group of students is gonna give us, in my opinion, the most bang for our buck, because those are the students who need to grow the most, and they're not gonna grow if they're.
Well, and those are the kids who are missing out opportunities and from the school's perspective as a whole, right? They're, as you said, the people who need the most help, right? So if their math score goes up 10%, that's a huge jump to help them
Mhm.
and ultimately helps us.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I had a question on here, related to cell phone policy, and maybe you're gonna get to that. I don't know if you have anything in that. I'm just curious how that's been for you this year and if you've had any issues.
Same. The middle school's been doing it now for 5 years, so I get a little bit of pushback from a few families, but as soon as I say, hey, look, this has been a policy for 5 years. As a matter of fact, it's gonna be a policy statewide. There's like, and by the time it gets to my desk and I'm having conversations with parents, it's already the third time their kid's phone has been taken away.
Right, so I mean, I think you sent something home this week, actually, in the weekend report, like, first offense, you pick it up in the office, second one is a letter home, maybe in the.
No, parents come get it
And then the third one is a scheduled meeting
with me, and sometimes it takes a long time.
Oh, so you hold on to it.
I might, like, I'm busy, you're busy, like, it might take a weekend to get a phone, and that really, for a middle schooler, that's a big deal.
I mean, I'm an adult.
Don't get your phone taken
from
from
me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if this is related, but is there a link between like a family's income and whether or not their kid will be in special ed? Some sort of a relationship?
There's a correlation, yeah.
There.
Higher chance, yep. Higher chance of qualifying.
All right. Next goal, these next two are short, I promise. The management of school resources, so we are gonna run financial reports monthly, we're gonna communicate financial status to the key members, and then maximize human capital, which means anytime we have an opportunity to save money, we're really gonna look at opportunities to do that best we can. And so I've got a really great assistant principal who is really fantastic with numbers and things like that. So she runs the budget every single month, and this is where we're at. So it's looking pretty good. We're below budget, so try to keep it
The
that
red line budget.
The red line was last year, and ended up being, our new budget ended up being very close to that.
What's your budget? Was that on the previous slide? What's your budget?
Say it again?
What's your budget? Was that on the previous slide?
Yeah, previously we were up here, but we underspent last year, so we were. Sometimes when you're fiscally responsible, you get rewarded with a new lower budget, but I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Our new budget is 65.
See if you can do it again.
I'm gonna go back to the recording of that meeting. Everybody's like, what if we just spend the same? And then they all came in under budgets. Good job. everybody.
Yeah. We really put this, we really put the screws down in April last year, just so you know. We really stopped everything. All right, so for goal number 3, what we had planned, so weekly problem solving meetings, we call them team leader huddles. So we've got key leaders that we meet with every single Wednesday morning, basically go around the horn. But yeah, for me, I talk about things that are coming up or things that I'm working on with them. For instance, hey, here's a list of the students that I need you to meet with that are chronically absent. Please do that. So we talk about that. Weekly walkthroughs and then celebrations and connections, and then utilizing our personality surveys that we took at the beginning of the school year, which were really cool, and I used them with the staff. So how we've done, we've scheduled and attended 95% of our weekly problem solving meetings, which is great. And then had the number of walkthroughs done, I've done 101 walkthroughs this year. Scroll down. All right. Any questions?
I have one more question. Behavior incidents went on there just as an overall kind of feeling up, down, as they were last year. Where did we go?
It's middle school, man. Things could change in a day. Good. I think we're doing great. I think consistency. Myself, Dana, Rick Lynch, we've all been in these behavior type roles now for 5 years. This is year 6. Students understand what's expected. They understand what happens when they don't meet expectations. Parents understand what happens when they don't meet expectations. So I think overall it's great. That's great. It's middle school. I mean, we're gonna have issues, but I mean, for the most part, like our intervention room is not overwhelmed. None of the indicators when we have 5, 6 kids in there every single day, that's too much. Now we need to change things, but that's not normally the case. As a matter of fact, like Joe said, our interventionists are often on offense, not defense, which means they're out meeting with kids who they normally have come to them, checking on them in the classroom. How's your day? Pulling them out, giving a real quick update, checking on kids, checking on their point sheet. So, yeah, it's going okay.
The behavior contracts and the new student committee seems to be beneficial, at least at all the athletic events and that side of the process, but.
That's good. Good. That's really good. Yeah, middle schoolers have been a really integral part of that too.
Thoughts on Wednesdays, the PLC time?
I love them. I love them. I think they're great. They're great. What it does is it actually gives, because what we were doing is we were, if you were in a leadership role, we paid teachers for that. But we stopped paying teachers for being teacher leaders for the most part, and we give them a little bit. But we were asking them to do all kinds of hours outside of contract time. And just, if this is a way for us to do the job that we need to do, without interruption. And I think the Wednesday early outs is just it's a really great way to do it. Thanks, super beneficial.
Same question. Anything we can do to help?
I think you're doing what you need to do. Brian's been great, and you guys keep supporting him and we're in good shape.
Brian, do you have your envelope for Joe?
Yeah, I don't know, I already prepaid everybody.
Consistency is nice.
Thanks.
I was like, speaking of consistency, Brian, do you have them do the same presentation online?
Yeah, the team we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I like.
Yeah, and it's been emailed to everybody, just
I like the
earlier
consistency.
today.
I mean, it's just important. Have their free ones. Yeah, the goals. are- yeah. I mean, they're all orange and white.
Here to talk about high school, again, first year here, in the fall. This was kind of an introduction. Hopefully feedback's been good about what's going on at the high school. I feel very positive about where we're at so far. Just start off first, quick shout out, our girls team, bowling team today qualified for state, which is awesome. And then, Peyton Hadley, qualified, for individual state, which is pretty sweet. Boys qualifying meet is here at Common Bowl tomorrow. You have a chance, stop out because it's pretty dang cool. So a lot of good things going extracurricular wise in the classroom, but where we start off, my focus is at the high school is getting kids to the finish line. So one of my data points, my main data point is looking at the past and looking at where we're at now of what percentage of students are passing all classes based off first semester data in the past 5 years. Okay, you see 5 years ago, 56%. Then we hop to 67%. 69% last year, 86%, big leap. And then this year, 88% of our students are passing all classes, whether that be on a 7 or 8 period day. Pretty awesome. One thing I do want to give a shout out. Sorry, didn't want to scoop past this, but I think Susan Johnson deserves a lot of credit for some of that big leap that you see from the 2022-2023 to 2023-2024 year. She's very awesome at working with students, making sure that they get caught before they fall. And a lot of the interventions, sorry, Mr. Mack, you go ahead.
No, I'm listening. Please go ahead.
Okay. A lot of the interventions that we have put in place, whether our student assistance team, we meet in the room right behind you, Jenna Hagelin's office. We'll be meeting there tomorrow to talk about kids and kids that we believe are struggling and what supports that we can give them. Whether that's, hey, we need to pull you out of the classroom, not every single day, but we need to make sure to check on you every single day. Every student needs that one person, that one teacher, that one coach, that one adult that really has their back. So what we've built in a system is making sure that we identify not only the student, but also give that student the support that they need to make sure that every single person has somebody in the corner. That's the high school diploma. That's the accumulation of all the years of work that you put in ever since you started kindergarten, preschool, whatever it may be. Now we're to the last 4 years and getting to the finish line. And I'm very, very encouraged by that data. My goal for next year is that number in the 90s. Ideally, it's going to be 100%. And one disclaimer, we're not dumbing down curriculum. We're not making it easier. We're just building in more supports for kids and making sure that, hey, if they're struggling, we're going to notice it. We're going to be there for them. That's been huge for us, and making sure that they don't get to that point of being credit deficient. And it starts at your freshman year, making sure that you start right. So it's easier your sophomore year, your junior year. By the time you're junior and senior, it's, hey, I'm able to take those classes at the RCC. I'm able to take those NIAC credits to make sure I can basically maybe get a full semester of college under my belt for free before going on to that next step. So a lot of things are trending as the data proves. If you want to see the real numbers, put all of them up there, but percentages are highly encouraging. So, Mr. Mack?
So my question is related to credits.
Yeah.
So what year did we go from
Last year.
53 to?
I believe it was last year. Yep. I believe it was last year. Yes.
Great, that answers my question.
Yes. Absolutely. Wonderful. To continue, like Mr. Taylor emphasized, the ISASC is our Super Bowl at the beginning for our standardized testing. We still have the goal to have that 5% higher percentage of students proficient on the ISASC. Students that are proficient are going to maintain that proficiency. And then if students are below proficient, they're going to demonstrate growth or make some progress towards proficiency. Our testing window is April 7th through the 18th. Likely a majority of our testing is going to be done the 7th through the 11th. So then we have that following week to be able to do makeups and make sure every kid is taking that test. That's a point of growth that we recognize as, hey, every single student needs to take that test. But again, at the high school, students need to know that what I'm taking matters. So we are having an incentive program at the high school level. Again, seniors do not take the ISASC, but juniors, sophomores, freshmen do. So our incentive for the junior class is that if you are proficient, sustaining, or showing growth in 3 out of the 4 or 2 out of the 3 tests, then you're going to be able to have open campus lunch for the remainder of the school year. Big incentive for the junior class, right? And then it also doesn't create a big traffic jam in our parking lot. So we're not gonna be able to do that for all classes. Sophomores, we've surveyed students, said, hey, what would you like? And the juniors, it was more freedoms. We can give more freedoms with maybe some open campus lunch. Sophomores, very similar. Freshmen, we solidified that actually today. It's gonna be an extra value meal from McDonald's. The Soyfer family followed through with that, which is pretty cool. Again, if it's sustaining, showing growth, or proficient in 3 out of the 4, 2 out of the 3 tests, depending on what grade level takes that. And then we're still kind of figuring out what we're wanting to do for the sophomore class. It's just that extra little push they need to say, hey, I'm going to take this test seriously. I'm going to give it my best effort. And thinking back to maybe when you took it or when I took it, you know, I'm going to fill this in and make a Christmas tree. We don't want that, right? We want everybody putting forth their best effort. So really excited with that. And again, teaming with the community has been very, very helpful for that. If you want to scroll down to the next one. 4 main goals for my first year to build a foundation here for success in years to come is to retain 85% of staff. Currently, we're on target. You know, again, it's just wanting to keep good teachers, wanting to keep good paraeducators, wanting to keep good support staff. Number 2, the Wednesday after school for detentions. And you know, I wish I would have brought the numbers, and I apologize for that. But overall, our attendance has been it's been going well. Ms. Johnson has done an excellent job with that as well. For number 3, we are under our current budget for the year. Currently, we have only spent 60% of our allocated budget, which I'm very happy for. And then number 4, Wednesday early out professional development plans that follow the daily structure month by month. We have a lot of positive feedback from our PLC and BLT team when we met around Christmas break over just having that solid structure of knowing what we're going to address, and then that time is going to be used in a purposeful manner. And last time we talked in the fall, my last little plug here is one of the concerns I had was the use of technology and cell phones at high school. So a couple Wednesdays ago, Ms. Burnett was actually a part of that. We were right in here during our Wednesday PLC time and our professional learning time. And this is what we had drafted for our cell phone policy for next year. You guys can read it for yourself, but it's something that we all came into agreement, not only as staff, but as administration and as support staff, that we all felt really good about. We had a lot of ideas from other schools in Iowa that, hey, this is what worked for them, and kind of molded something that worked well for us. So that'll be on your docket for approval when it comes to handbook revisions and policy revisions.
Excuse me, below it.
Yeah, can I ask a question about this one?
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there any impact to extracurricular activities? And if they've done it second or third or fourth time, is there an impact?
That's when I'll get the coaches involved. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, at any point of that, you know, being a former coach myself, I understand the correlation between discipline and policy follow through and communication with coaches. So at any point in that, we will definitely work in contacts with extracurriculars. But at this point, there is nothing written that would affect extracurriculars. Now, if they were to obviously get onto step 3 or on that 3rd offense, then that would have a direct correlation with extracurriculars.
My other question is related to, so it says smartwatches. So are they supposed to take them off if they have one, or just not use them in a smart function?
not use them in a smart kitchen. Yeah,
So, I mean, still keep them to tell time and stuff like that.
correct. Yeah, absolutely. So, and the same thing, AirPods are incredibly popular, or cordless headphones, right?
Yeah.
We're not gonna eliminate those, because they can be synced Bluetooth with, students' Chromebook. We're not gonna go that far. Our main concern is the cell phone itself. And students have a locker. Every student has an assigned locker that locks. Hey, they can leave them in their cars, or the big point is we don't want that to be a distraction of learning. A lot of our students are having that as, or excuse me, a lot of our staff are doing the book study right now with the anxious generation. And, you know, this has been a constant conversation. You know, a lot of the places that have gone to a policy very similar to this have seen a lot of good things, increase in test scores, better attendance, believe it or not. And it's something I'm excited to see the results of next year.
Shorter bathroom times.
Much shorter bathrooms, yes. I would anticipate that.
Has any of this been like floated amongst the students, like they know that this is?
Oh, yeah, no, like anything, if anybody's supposed to know, everybody knows. You know, it's, students know it's coming down the pipeline. It's, you know, like anything, you know, whether it's sitting at lunch and talking about it to kids and just the chatter, they know it's coming from the pipeline, for sure.
Just a touch of parental feedback. You're gonna make sure it's not part of your curriculum. And
Correct. Yeah.
It's required to use TikTok. And
Correct. Yeah, that's one of those things. It's, you know, we're flexible enough with technology and we have the tools. We're a one-to-one school for a reason. So, you know, we'll find a way to modify it if we do have technology used. That it's not gonna.
a lot of the apps are really handy for like Team Reach and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you're taking that away, the kid's gonna have to learn to pay attention to them now.
Absolutely. There's a lot of means to communicate. So we plan to communicate that out. Again, it's gonna be to your approval, but do it in the middle of the summer and then go from there.
Same question. Anything we can help with? That's a major need that you think should be brought to our attention.
I just appreciate the support, especially first year, coming in. You know, I've been very impressed by all the support, not only from the board, but from the staff, from the students, from the parents. You know, Brian's had my back and I appreciate that more than you know. I'll take my envelope later. But no, it's, the team that we have here is solid. The bones are good. We just need to keep on refining it and making sure we keep on moving forward and doing the right things.
And I've heard good things about you too, so thank you for.
No, I appreciate it. Hopefully they continue.
The phone calls and emails I get, I can tell you have a ton of positive communication.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I got a good team, so.
The only other thing is, same as I asked everybody else, the Wednesday early out PLC time beneficial or still up in the air?
It's been highly beneficial, but I can give you pros and cons with doing it, and I can give you pros and cons for going to full day PDs only. It's just really what fits our district, and I know this is the first year that we brought it back. I think we've instituted, they had it 6 years or 7 years ago, I don't know, something like that, and then it was brought back this first year, but I think our structure's been good, you know, but I can also see us going to full days and also making that really beneficial as well. It's just kind of whatever plan we decide to run with, we're gonna utilize our time well.
Appreciate it. Anybody else?
Would you like Dr. Schilling to move our part, since we have so many people here at 6:30?
That's.
I mean,
What time is it? 6:33.
we can move our part to a future meeting if you like. All right,
Well,
Dr.
respect.
Schilling, is that okay if we move our part to a future meeting?
It's been on the hook for.
Thank you, guys. If you have anything,
Yeah.
There, should we go to the regular meeting, then we can circle back?
I can ask her.
No, okay, everybody says no, okay, okay, no.
Ryan thinks he's gonna be here.
Yeah, I'm absolutely, I can do my part. I can ask Dr. Schilling.
Jen can join another time.
And it's been on the schedule for something.
Sure. Do you want to go now, or do you want to, it's fine, either way. Okay.
Good.
That's what you'd like to do, I could go either though.
I feel bad that you came, so.
Completely up to you. It's been on the schedule longer for you. Take a motion to adjourn. I'll make it.
Second.
Probably moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Meeting adjourned. We're gonna take a